Okay, welcome back, everyone. Today I'm going to discuss how the hourglass from the Black Widow spider is connected to the etheric lattice, Nikola Tesla's etheric lattice, which is the wheel with the spokes. So I just got back from Egypt. It was a wonderful trip, and maybe I'll share some of that information as we go along. So let's get into the presentation. Let me go ahead and share my screen and get to the slideshow. Get to that. Okay, bring that over here. All right, so let's get going. So one of the things I want to impress on you is that nature uses geometry to encode how energy flows. So if you have the awareness to look at the shapes, forms, plants, animals, everything that you see in nature will be a reflection on how energy flows, physics, and it will describe this. And so I've just got a few because this is the hourglass that's on a black widow spider. Here is an orb web made from an orb weaver. And I will show you, this is the nature showing you what the etheric lattice looks like, where you see it looks like a wheel with these spokes on it, with some nodes placed on it, and how this hourglass, you'd never, unless you could read how the divine has a pen and uses symbols to represent important energetic structures, you wouldn't realize that this is the same as this. And that's what I'm going to show you today and how I made those particular connections. And this over here is a shell, and you can see kind of this spiral that's going on because all motion, all motion is spiral in nature. Okay, so let's look here. This is just when I go back into this, some of you are familiar with it. I have shown the mathematics behind this etheric lattice. I refer to it as a 33 based lattice, and we have a 363-degree scalar circle instead of the conventional 360 degrees circle. So I've got this over here. There are three concentric rings or circles here, and I'm going to be focusing on the inner circle today. And this circle, you can imagine it like a pie, and we've cut it into 11 sections. So there are 11 phases, 11 phase angles, I could say as we go around here, but you can count. This would be the first node at 33. So these are in 33-degree intervals. There are 11 of them, so 33 times 11 is 363 degrees. So this first node is 33, 66, 99, 132, 165, and you can see as you go around here. I've discussed before, if you digital root these numbers, these phase angles, you will see Tesla's 369. That a digital root is where you take the number and you can actually make a single digit out of the two numbers. I have two numbers here, so this would be six. 3 plus 3, or this would be a 6. 6 and 6 would be a 12, or this would be a 3. 9 and 9 would be 18, and 1 and 8 would be a 9. So this has the triad of Nikola Tesla built into this etheric lattice. And I'm just showing you this is a famous picture he was in front of. But my main focus today is to show you how this red hourglass, is this. That's what we want to look at. Okay, so before then, we've got to just do a quick review. This may be a review from some of my other listeners, where we are going to look at Tesla's vortex mathematics. This is dealing with where you take numbers and you double the numbers. It is related to sound, harmonics, octaves, but we're doubling one to go to two, double two, we can go to four, double four, we go to eight, double eight, we get to 16, and then that's a one and a six or a seven. Double 16, we get 32 or a 5. And then this whole series, number series, will repeat itself as we keep doubling. There is no 3, 6, or 9 that shows up in this particular pattern. If we have the numbers, we see the same string of numbers, but they run backwards. So you can see 1 divided by 2 is a half, it's zero point 0.5 or 5. 0.5 divided by 2 is 0.25. This is 7. And you can go through the math here. And so I placed these numbers back onto the red hourglass. You can see this red hourglass here. The 1, 2, 4 I put up on the top. There's 6 digits that are present. And I put the last 3, 8, 7, 5 here. And so the energy can flow 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. So this is similar to when an egg is fertilized by a sperm and we have a single cell and it doubles itself. It goes from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8. And this is like the process in biology of mitosis or cellular division. So energetically, it's following the same pattern. There's geometry associated with it as well. You can go backwards, energy can go 5, 7, 8, 4, 2, 1. Where I changed this and what hadn't been shown before is I added 3, 6, and 9 to this hourglass. I put 3 down here on this vertical kind of left side. I put 6 here on the right side, and there's a 0 and a 9. And if you watch my videos before, I have talked about how this hourglass, the energy is by expansion, the magnetic wave comes out and then it returns here by compression. We can call them different things in physics. We can call the expansion outgoing. We can call that centrifugal force. The magnetic wave is outgoing and then it returns here. And this would be centripetal or incoming or compression. All these mean the same thing. I placed also this as like the breadth of the universe. The exhale would be 6, the inhale would be a 3, and the pause would be 9. And so I've talked about this before. I have some dashed lines here that connect it, and it looks a lot like the Great Pyramid. If you go to the center point and you were to pull it up and collapse it down, you can see the Great Pyramid. So this is what we're going to be working with. This is the actual hourglass that structure that I first started to model the energy across. So a few things that I want to go over that are why, if you start looking at the hourglass, you will notice some very interesting things about the hourglass. If we disregard for the moment the 3 and the 6, you'll see that there's a 1 and an 8 that go this vertically on the left side. There's a 2 and a 7. There's a 4 and a 5 on the right side. So I started to notice that these, add to 9. 1 and 8's 9, 2 and 7's 9, 4 and 5's 9. And so if you look at the 9 times table, which growing up, we used to speed to do this in class, which is hilarious without really understanding kind of what we were doing or what the math might be saying. But I placed the values 9 times 1's 9, 9 times 2's 18, 9 times 3's 27, 9 times 4's 36, 9 times 5 is 45, 9 times 6 is 54, 9 times 7 is 63, 9 times 8 is 72, 9 times 9 is 81, and 9 times 10, if we go that high, is 90. And then I have 9 times 11 down here because 99 turns out to be a very important number that I will elaborate on in a moment. But the interesting thing here, and I filled out the times table and I could race through it, but do you see how the numbers actually will reverse? The numbers actually reverse here from going from 0, 9, and you can see 9, 0, and then here you have 18 and 81 here, and then 27 and then 72 here. Do you see how these are reflections of one another? And right at the center here, 45 and 54. So this is telling you something very important about the flow of energy. It's right here in the 9 times table. And so I actually ended up putting these into what I'll call five wave families. So the zero and the nine would be, and the nine and the zero, these would be one family, the reflections of one another. One and the eight, eight and the one, and then two and the seven, seven and the two, and then three, six, six, three, four, five, five, four. So you can actually see these on this hourglass the way the energy is distributed and I place the numbers. You can see the one, we could go eight, and then we could go eight and then back to one. We could go two and seven, seven back to the two, four to the five, five back to the four, three to the six, right? Six back to the three. And then we have the zero and the nine. This is kind of the singularity at this particular point. So there was an obvious connection to me with the nine times table and the way the numbers were placed across the hourglass. So to go back and to share with you a little bit about how I came up with the 33 lattice. This is the etheric lattice. This has the nodes on it. This describes how the energy will flow across this in resonance, this ladder. It's a 33, this is a 33 phase interval lattice. And so it's showing you here 33 times 1, and then times 2, times 3, times 4. So I'm going to show you one rotation around the circle, which is not 360 degrees. In my mathematics, it's 363. So you have to go around. There'll be 11 nodes. I could go further. This is the blue is the second concentric ring, and then there's a third concentric ring for three rotations, ultimately ending in 1089, or what I refer to as the square-based pyramid. And you can see if we digital root these things, you're going to get, for here, 33 is 6, and it goes to 3 and 9 as I was describing. Okay, so this is just to give you the 363 circle, which is the 363 code, which is the title of the book that I recently published with Daniela, and that's on Amazon, which goes into more detail on a lot of this. But this is the etheric lattice through three concentric uh, rings that are here. So it's harmonic. It's also, if you look at it, it's a whole number system that we're looking at. We're not using so we're using rational numbers, not irrational numbers. And you can see these 11 nodes that go through here, 33, 66, 99. So it's this that I want to tell you how this will relate back to that hourglass with the numbers that I placed on the hourglass. That's what I want to show you how to do that. All right, so here what we have, I've just showed you the nine times multiples or times table here. So I've already introduced this. Now what this is are these nodes that are going to be placed from the etheric lattice. So 111, 211, 311, 411, 511. So if I go back here just a second, so the 33, this would be 111th because it's the first node and there's 11 nodes that are on this inner circle. This 66 would be 2 11s, 99 would be 3 11s, 4 11s, 5 11s, 6 11s, and all the way around. And so this is showing you the inner circle and that connection between the 11 nodes. So here, then I just multiply by 9 just so we can, both the numerator and the denominator, and then boom, you can start to easily see these numbers pop out, the 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, and so forth. So here you see them popping out. I coded them here over here as like this is the 0 and the 9, this is the 1 and the 8, this is the 2 and the 7, and this is the 4 and the 5, and so forth. So you can see how I'm coding these out. The 8 and the 1 is like this kind of reverse here that you're seeing. So making the connection between the etheric lattice, the 33 lattice that I have with its nodes back to this specific hourglass. So now, here's where this circle, the scalar circle, is different radically from the 360 degrees for a standard Euclidean circle, which is more static. This is more one that is breathing. It is alive. And where we're headed for paradigm shifts is that a paradigm shift when we start realizing that the geometry, the numbers are alive. Everything is breathing. The universe breathes. It's not mechanical. And we'll be able to use our mathematics that we've developed, but we're going to see there's going to be additional features that are going to pop in and integrate with our mathematics. So this is really exciting. So here's, if we look here, I want to show you here, go back, and I'm going to show you that this node here, 33, is complementary to 330. These two nodes are complementary to one another. And so these two, this is position one here, and 330 is position 10. And so because these are complementary nodes, one will go with 10. And then two will go 66 degrees, will go with 297. Okay, so that's node 2 and 9. And then we can continue on. 99 will go with 264. That's nodes 3 and 8. And then node 4, 132 with 231 is 4 and 7. And then 5 and 6, these nodes are 165 degrees and 198 degrees, respectively. So the interesting thing about this, if you notice, these all add to 363. So 330 plus 33 is 363, 297 degrees plus 66 is 363. These are all 363. And then we leave. So these are the what I will refer to as the five pairs. The 11th position, this axis here on this radial line here is the closure. I'm going to call it the closure channel. So all of these, interestingly, because they add to 363 degrees to divide by 2, their midpoints, their centers, are all 181.5 degrees. All right, so I tried to make it a little bit easier so you could maybe see through some kind of visual what's happening when we take the scalar circle, which is the 33 lattice, where it has 11 nodes that are separated by 33 degrees. And we have complementary nodes. I was using the example 33 degrees and 330 degrees. And we are going to kind of fold this in a way that we're going to compress the lattice and fold it into an hourglass shape. Okay, and this 11th radial is really not oscillatory. It is really closure. And it's interesting later, this same position is where all the 1089, this radial line is where all the 1089 multiples will fall. This is unity at this particular point. So this schematics, I'm trying to show you kind of how that if we were to fold the scalar circle, how we would end up over here with the hourglass. And you can see there are, it's a 5-1-5. I'll call it a 5-1-5 kind of format because you have 5 of the nodes up here and 5 of the nodes down here. Okay, so this then I'm making connections now with the math, and this here is where it's very interesting. So if I go back to the hourglass, I can place the equivalence of where the 0 and 9 is. I can place 1/11 and 10/11. So remember, this was one of the pairs, and this is 333 divided by 363 is 0.090909. 330 divided by 363 is 0.909090. So you can see this is one of the wave pairs that was mentioning. And then the one in the 8, that on the hourglass, that corresponds to 2/11s and 9/11s. Okay, and these are what those decimals are if you were to run the math on those. And you can see if we are looking at the lattice, this would be like the second node right here, and this is like the ninth node, and you can see that these are equivalent. across here. Then for the 2/7, we can do the same thing. It's where the 2 and 7 are on the hourglass, that's 3/11. And then where the 2 is and 8/11 is where the 7 is. And then you can see these ratios and how these come out to these fractions over here, which reflect the nodes. This is the third node, right? And this is the eighth node. And so you can see what's going on here with the numbers. The same with the 3 and the 6, it's 4/11, 7/11, and these are the ratios, and these are from the scalar circle and their ratios. See how they're matching here? And then 4/5 is 5/11 and 6/11, and these are the actual ratios. So what we have here is we have the ability to go from the 33 etheric lattice to this 2D hourglass. We can show that they are mathematically the equivalent. And you do in nature see the orb web all throughout nature. The hourglass is found on the abdomen of black widow spiders, but the hourglass in our past, you see it show up in a lot of locations. So what actually falls out conceptually? We have fractional complementarity. So the 1/11 I was showing you goes with the 10/11, 2/11 with 9/11, 3/11 with 8/11. So these are these pairs here, and if you count them, you'll see that there are five of them, and they're going to correspond to these decimals, which themselves are mirrors of one another that are listed here. And this is the lattice complementarity that you see that I was showing you earlier. So now, what really then are we looking at when we see the 0.18 or 8.81, or I'll just say it's a 1 and an 8, and then an 8 and a 1. So each one of these, this is a pair, so this is a bidirectional wave. So these each pair represents, and they're bidirectional. This is an oscillatory system where we're experiencing two opposite orientations. So here we've got the five wave families that I put here. There's five wave families, hint five, five pentagon, hint. um, and and so then I put brief descriptions to the best of my ability to describe kind of what these represent. So 0.09, 0.90, this is a boundary or reset. This is where the system begins and it returns to unity. 0.181818 and 0.818181. This corresponds, you can see what I'm doing up here with this as the example. This is timing return. So this controls the outward movement and the return toward balance. 0.272727 and 0.7272. This is the flow pathway. This defines how the energy moves through the system. 0.363636 and 0.636363. Polarity, exchange. This is balancing opposing forces within the system. So, and then our last one, 0.454545 to zero point 0.4 to 0.545454. This is inversion or transition. This is where you get the turning point where the system is going to reverse direction. So this turns out to be like a small key that we would see out front, and we can place this all back onto both the hourglass and the 33 lattice as well. So showing you here that there is a connection. Now I got to tell you something that's really interesting. This black widow spider is classified as a cob weaver. A cob weaver, when it spins its web, it's a three-dimensional web, but it doesn't have any symmetry. It would be thrown up in the corner of a house inside, say, up on the wall, and you wouldn't see any symmetry. So it's lost the ability to spin this wheel over here, but other spiders can spin this. Other than these spiders are referred to as orb weavers, like Charlotte in the movie Charlotte's Web. This is called a two-dimensional web, although it has thickness, but it's referred to as a wheel with spokes. The black widow spider cannot spin this, but on its abdomen, it left the lattice. So nature and the divine is using a pen as language, and we should be paying attention to the symbols because if you know how to read the symbols and the shapes of objects, animals, plants, for example, then you can be able to understand how energy flows, how it flows in the universe. So this is what I mean here is that the divine language is revealed in nature, and it's revealed in nature in its shapes. And so we have to pay attention to the geometry because the geometry in nature has specific angles that will pull the living life force to those structures, those architectural structures, and the organism will thrive. So it's literally tapping into this etheric lattice, which has, by all means, what you would say is infinite amounts of energy. It's the energy that spins galaxies. And if you can tap into that, which the ancients were tapping, the ancients were not using gasoline or coal. They were using the living life force. They were pulling it to their architectural structures, and that energy that was present, everyone was using it to harmonize any imbalances in their own bodies. So always nature. So we have to will show us this in shapes. Shapes are angles. Shapes are angles. Angles are geometry. So shape or angle and frequency are basically the two things that the universe does. So we want to be able to keep our eye on this because the more we understand this, the more that we can actually connect to the etheric lattice, which is everywhere, which has all information because it's all energy. And we can define this, and you can call this different things. Some people will call it source, some people will call it God. Just however you want to define that. We're talking about a communication or a resonance with this grid. So we have to pay attention to the geometry, and certainly the numbers and shapes are alive. They do breathe. Now, I want to leave you with this. I went to Egypt. I was looking for something, and I found it. So here is this is Seshat. She is a goddess. And I want to show you that, if the geometry and the lattice and the hourglass that I'm showing you, if it's real, we should expect to see it perhaps in layered geometries. We should be making in ancient glyphs. Now, if you look at Seshat, she is the goddess. So she's a netter, what I refer to as a netter. The gods and goddesses if you can look at the mythology, they represent the divine, different characteristics of the divine. Seshat or Mat represents cosmic balance, order, truth, measurement. And I believe she's representing the etheric lattice. The measurement, she also did geometry. And you're seeing here, if you look at what's coming out of the top of her head, look closely here. This is, I believe, in my mathematics, representing the 363 circle. Here is the heptagon. It's a seven-pointed star, and embedded within the seven-pointed star, the heptagon, is a five-pointed star. You see how subtle this is. So you're dealing with kind of a central axis, central axis here, radial symmetry, and multifold patterns. So this I talked about earlier videos. I talked about the 363 scalar circle and the heptagon being um, basically placed within the circle, and the vertex is falling within the circle at specific degrees, angles, right? You remember it was 51 degrees, and I went into the 6-digit repeat, and I showed you how those 7 points corresponded to what I believe are the 7 Osiris gates. And now we've got a 5-pointed circle or a 5-pointed star on the inside of this. And she's got this also on her clothing. This we've got to go into. This is amazing. She's left us something here on how energy flows, but that is going to be for another video, maybe more than one. All right. Share the channel. Please share the channel with others. I will continue to build out more and more information. We're on this journey. This is going to be an incredible journey. This mathematics will lead us to free energy. It will lead us to being able to use the etheric lattice, be able to integrate it into products that we make. And Ibrahim Karim is already doing this. An amazing, I met with him when I was in Egypt, amazing individual. So much ancient knowledge, so much respect for this man. He's incredible. So keep watching, spread the channel with others, and we'll have a real fun journey.